Hello Emily and everyone at Bath University, Marcus Sedgwick here. I'm speaking to you from my writing shed. If it looks like it's really hot in here and I'm really hot, that's because it is. It's about as hot as a sauna in here because there's a big fire in the corner that I can't turn down. And this film, believe it or not, is being brought to you by the power of a clementine jamming my iPhone against the door handle. So if you suddenly fall on the floor halfway through, that's why. So I'm going to answer your questions if I can, here in order. The first thing you've asked about is advice for aspiring writers starting out, hints and tips. I always say the same thing when people ask me this. I think the most important thing to remember is that you're doing this, or you're supposed to be doing this, because you enjoy it, not because anyone's making you do it, or because you have any fancy notions about it, or that you think you're going to make a fortune out of doing it. But because it's something you enjoy. In fact, it's something you enjoy so much you can't not do it. And it's very easy to forget that and get wrapped up in all sorts of other things. So I think it's really valuable to remind yourself from time to time that you're supposed to be enjoying it. In more practical terms, I always think it's good to finish everything you start, even if you don't think it's particularly good or you're worried about it in lots of ways. You can't, whatever kind of writing you're doing, but let's say you're writing novels, you can't publish half a novel. No publisher is going to be interested in half a novel. They need to publish a whole book. That's fairly obvious. So if you only get good at writing the first half of books and then you give up and you go back to the beginning or you start something new, there's no way you're going to get published. So it's really important all the time that you practice that thing. The other thing is to experiment with how you work best. You know, some people are just fine having an idea and sitting down and getting on with it and exploring it fairly loosely. Other people, like me, like to plan things a lot before they write. I think it's really important you find out which of those two methods and everything in between is going to work best for you. Your next question, what we should be doing now as first years to help further our careers? Well, that's a really tough question. Thank you for that. I think the most important thing is, as I said before, just keep in mind why you're doing it. This is supposed to be something you really love, and therefore by extension everything you're doing should be taking you on to look at new things, read lots, watch lots of films, if that's what interests you. I think in terms of, you know, when you come to that point when, okay, you've written something and then you want to get it sold and you want to find an agent and then a publisher, it's really important to realise that although this is a creative process, at that point you're working in a business world, and to be professional is very important, and just really basic things like being polite, being prompt, doing things when you say you will, all of that kind of stuff, believe it or not, will sort of put you above certain people who are starting out, who are just even doing those things right. I mean, on the course I know you get taught all this kind of you know, all the stuff you're supposed to do about agents and all that kind of stuff too, so I won't really go into that now. But I think as a first year, perhaps, you know, it's more about just the creative side of it, and then later on you can start thinking about the marketplace more as a marketplace. To be honest though, you can't really second guess this stuff, you know, and some people will tell you they know what the market wants and what it's about, but most of the time people don't really have a good idea. No one really knows. It's fluctuating all the time, it changes all the time, and to be honest, the best thing to do is just do what you want to do, what you want to write, with as much of your heart in it as possible, and then hopefully it'll be authentic, and then hopefully that will mean something to someone and people will want to read it, sell it, publish it. You put background to my novels here. I don't quite know what you mean by that, but I'm assuming you want to know about how I go about writing my books, that kind of thing. In terms of processes, as I said earlier, there are all kind of different sorts of writers out there, and there are ones who just, you know, sit down and explore, and there are writers like me who plan. I do, as I said, a lot of research and a lot of thinking and a lot of planning before I write a single word of any book. I don't do this because I think it's how can I say, the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do for me, but there's no one correct way of doing this. I do this because I find it makes my life easier. If I plan things out and I think about a book for long enough first, it means when I sit down in front of the computer that I don't have those awful days when I'm sat there and I don't know what to write, and no one wants to stare at a blank screen. There's no worse feeling as a writer than thinking, oh, I don't know what to do. So therefore I spend a lot of time first, I say, planning, making notes, filling a notebook up. I do diagrams of the book I'm going to write, kind of like making a map of the book. Not set in stone. This, you know, it's done in pencil, so things can change all the time. But it means I've got some kind of template, some guide to what I'm trying to do before I set out on that journey. And that, it varies. Each book I write kind of varies exactly what's happened, but all that that I've just explained, that remains the same for every book. I want to know about the book that I'm going to write before I write it. Not in complete 100% detail, because then where would be my fun in writing it, but enough to know that I'm going to be in control of it when I do it. Your journey as a writer, how did you take knockbacks, etc.? Well, my story in how I got published is, I think, a kind of average one. It took about 4 years. In that time I wrote 4 novels, none of which have been published. The 5th thing that I wrote actually became the first book that was published, but I didn't see those 4 books as wasted time. I guess I feel I was learning how to write. I didn't go on a creative writing course. I'd been way too scared to do that. And so those 4 novels, I think, was me learning how you do the whole thing, start to finish, of writing a book. I'd like to say they got better with each one. I'm not sure they did. But anyway, by the end of that process, the 5th thing I wrote, I got an agent. And she managed to sell that to my publisher, Orion, who've remained the same ever since that first book was published. So yeah, the worst knockbacks, I had some rejection letters, maybe a dozen in total over that period of 4 years from different agents and publishers. And I just kept going, and I don't think I did it with any particular feeling of like, oh, I'm going to show them, or like drive, or it was just I wanted to do it. I kept on writing, and I kept on trying to send things to people, and it was more kind of naivety, I think, that kept me going. If it had gone on for 10 years, then maybe I'd have given up and I wouldn't be here. But I say it took about 4 years, and I know people who've had, you know, much shorter routes to being published, and people who've taken much longer time. And your final thing was my proudest moment as a writer, and I haven't thought about this, and I don't really know. There are lots of lovely little moments in this job, from, you know, getting a nice review to you know, winning a prize, or my editor, who I trust enormously, if I can honestly see that she loves what I've done, that gives me a great feeling, because I respect her opinion very much. To something that happened a couple of days ago, a friend of mine, someone I know, you know, reasonably well, wrote to me and said their son, who had been having trouble reading, had read one of my books, and it seemed to have made the difference, and he was really enjoying reading something, and that gave me a great feeling. That made me very happy, because I think, you know, just to know on an individual level for real that someone has got something out of your books is fantastic. There's lots of good things about being a writer. That's a few of them. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Hope you're all well, and good luck with your writing, and as I said at the start, enjoy it.